The Ghost of the Ryunei Shrine, a Kaiju user of the past. Based off of this assumption, and some conversations that I've been having with my boy Macy down in the comments, I have a plot point that I want to talk about with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, the overall plot point that I want to talk about with Kaiju number 8 today is that somewhere along this line in the Kaiju era, the Japan Defense Force / the Japan government has started to hide information about Kaiju from society. The reason that I'm drawing this conclusion is because of 2 chapters ago specifically when we started learning about the Ghost of the Ryunei Shrine. Now, during this chapter, we learned 2 things in particular. We learned that people back in their Mariki era obviously had to fight in a much more primitive sense. They were using things like swords, shields, spears, arrows to fight Kaiju. We also learned that Kaiju spanned just that far back too, at least, all the way back to 1657. So based off of those 2 things, and then also seeing that samurai that had the Kaiju eyes at the end of the chapter, it's easy to see that outside of somebody that was a Kaiju user, they had to have very primitive fighting styles in fighting Kaiju. So they definitely would have needed help from somebody that would have been a Kaiju hybrid user like Kafka is, or a humanoid user of some sort. Now, what doesn't make sense to me is if there was a humanoid user of some sort back in the day, why doesn't society know about these kind of people now? Even Captain Hoshina knowing all of this stuff about the Ryunei Shrine, it's weird to me that he wouldn't have known about a Kaiju user or a humanoid user back in the day that was also helping his ancestors fight alongside these Kaiju. On top of that, there's a lot of things that lead me to this conclusion. It's weird that now in the Kaiju, basically the Kaiju timeline that we're in right now, the years that we're watching, instead of people having this humanoid version of Kaiju, like how Kafka is, all the Kaiju get turned into weaponized suits. And this is because we have better technology. We can basically take the Kaiju, once we figure out that they're over that 8.0 fortitude level, and basically take those Kaiju and turn them into weaponized suits. We've seen weaponized number 1, we've seen weaponized number 2, we've seen 4, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen all these weaponized suits, but we haven't seen any humanoids other than Kafka. On top of that, there's no research that's around that says anything about what Kafka is, yet at the same time, Kafka saw a ghost of somebody that had to have been similar to what he is. So somewhere along the line, I think that society just couldn't fathom the fact that humans were fighting with Kaiju to kill Kaiju. And it makes a lot of sense, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where, yes, they're helping us kill Kaiju, but they're still Kaiju at the end of the day. And it honestly kind of goes back to even this past chapter, where Haru was on the phone with Kafka and he said, yeah, we're all afraid of you, bro. Like, you're a Kaiju. But at the same time, you went to defend us. Like, you're still our comrade. You're still our friend. And I think that this is something that probably got lost over the years, / it's a lot harder for somebody in society to make that same correlation that Haru did. One chapter, or even if we go all the way back to, I don't know what chapter, it's probably like 2 or 3, man, but whenever Kafka first turns into Kaiju number 8 and him and Reno are kind of running through the town and Kafka saves that little girl and her mom from the Kaiju that's coming to eat them, it's crazy thinking back to that now with some of the information that we have now. And that girl was so afraid of Kafka, but at the same time, she realized that Kafka was there to protect her. So right as soon as she saw that Kafka was there to protect her, she was like, hey, like, thank you for protecting us. And then Kafka was like, no worries, Reno's gonna take you to the hospital, yada, yada, yada. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But it makes a lot of sense, man. It really makes a lot of sense. So Reno using the number 6 suit. Reno using the number 6 suit, even whenever Captain Ogata talked about Kaiju number 6, it was basically described as the symbol of despair. Well, would society want to see Reno using some hybrid humanoid version of Kaiju number 6 and knowing that that's the symbol of despair that brought all of these ice storms that completely destroyed that town, that took out Hikari? Like, there's some, it makes sense that instead of having a hybrid humanoid, they would just weaponize Kaiju number 6. That way we don't necessarily have the appearance of Kaiju number 6, but we do have a lot of that power that Kaiju number 6 has. And on top of that, something that is probably a downside of using these weaponized suits as opposed to having this humanoid version is that these humanoid versions seem a lot stronger, or I guess Kafka seems a lot stronger than what like a lot of these weaponized suit users would be able to do. Even Esau was keeping up with Kafka for a second, but then once that Kaiju started taking over and it said kill Kaiju, it was going ape shit on General Esau, and I'm sure none of y'all would disagree with that statement whatsoever. And basically at this point, I would say that Esau was the best like weaponized suit user that we've seen. So for Kafka to be able to do that to Esau, I mean, come on now. So I definitely think that somebody that's a humanoid version or humanoid, it's a lot easier for them to draw the full power of that Kaiju as opposed to the weaponized suits. But nah, man, this was just a plot point that I wanted to talk about. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that if there was a Daikaiju humanoid user of the past, like I said, like if there was a Kafka of the past, where did all this information on this person go? Or these people? What if there was multiple of them? There's no way that this just kind of like disappeared over time. So is this information that's being withheld or gate kept? Or maybe, I don't know, just lost over time and there's no malintent in this information being lost. But yeah, just something to think about. Tell me what y'all think down low. Other than that, thank you for watching this video. Arigato mas. And let me hit you with that note. Peace. Peace out, yo.